be honest. When you see rhythm like this, does your brain freeze? Do you think I've absolutely no idea where the beats are? If that sounds familiar, you're not bad at rhythm. You've just never been shown how counting actually works. Hi, I'm Jane Trotter and welcome to Accelerando Piano. I'm going to give you a simple system that lets you figure out any rhythm you see. No guessing, no hoping you're right. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where every note sits inside the beat, even the tricky dotted ones. Before we dive in, first ponder this. If you think, oh, I just can't count, I can't keep a steady beat, consider something you do every day. Walking. One foot in front of the other at regular intervals. That's a steady beat. It is possible. So, before we look at tricky rhythms, we need to actually understand what counting is actually made of, because there are two separate skills involved. The first is having a cognitive, mathematical understanding of rhythmic values. This means knowing the relationship between notes. Our rhythm pyramid is perfect for representing these connections. As we can see, there are two minims in a semibreve, two crotchets in a minim, two quavers in a crotchet, and so on. Each note lower down in the pyramid is half the value of the note above. We can go right down to Semiquavers, 1/32 of the semibreve at the top. Having an awareness of how note values work in context with one another is crucial. For example, a quaver followed by two semiquavers totals one crotchet beat. Proportionately speaking, the quaver occupies half the beat, while the other two semiquavers each occupy a quarter of the beat. We hear the first note as being longer than the other two. Let me put in a plug for learning music theory here, because it will deepen your understanding of rhythm. When you grasp time signatures, beat groupings, and the logic behind note values and notation, you'll develop a much better framework for tackling any rhythmic challenge. So, understanding note values gives us a map, but that map is useless if we don't move through it in time. That brings us to the second aspect of counting, playing rhythmic patterns within a steady, recurring pulse. You need to maintain a steady pulse and feel the beat so your rhythmic patterns can be overlaid on top of it. Here are some exercises to help reinforce your awareness of the pulse. First, tap your foot or clap along to your favourite piece of music. You'll probably feel pretty secure. You've heard it many times before. Next, try a piece you're unfamiliar with, perhaps a pop song with a very discernible drum beat. Now, the real test. Tap along with a piece, turn down the volume for a few seconds while you keep tapping, then turn it back up. Are you still in time? This reveals how strong your internal pulse is. Now that we understand both the structure of rhythm and the importance of a steady pulse, we can put them together. And this is where the real magic happens. The single most important technique for solving rhythmic problems is to subdivide the beat. When passages are difficult to count, the solution is almost always to count in smaller divisions. Let me show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's simple enough, but watch what happens when I add quavers or eighth notes. Because there are a lot of quavers in the rhythmic pattern, the safest way to count this would be to subdivide the beat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This makes it so much easier to follow and to keep track of where the beats are falling within the bar. It's important to remember, when a note lands on a number, this is the first half of the beat, and consequently the implicit stronger half of that beat. When a note lands on the and part of the beat, this is the second weaker half of the beat, and usually, although not always, doesn't carry the same amount of rhythmic impetus. There are some exceptions. In a syncopated sequence, for example, the and part of the beat will receive more stress than the number. I'll show you what I mean so you can hear the difference between the two. The first line are the notes coming on the beat, and the second line shows the syncopation. So I'm going to tap the beat with my left hand here, and I'm going to play the rhythm, and in that second line you'll hear that offbeat syncopation. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Counting in quavers works well until suddenly it doesn't. Oh, let's raise the difficulty level. What happens when semiquavers or 16th notes get added into the mix? This complicates things even further and is exactly the kind of rhythm many students find problematic. Check out this example. If I just count in crotchet beats, you can see and hear there's potentially a lot of room for error trying to fit in all of the small rhythmic values. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that wasn't so good. Now I'm going to count in semiquavers. Here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. These are nice short syllables, so I can fit 4 into one beat. And more importantly, the 1 E and a maintains the relative positioning of the start of the beat, the number, and where the and part of the beat comes, exactly halfway through. Now you can see every note has a clear, defined position in the rhythmic pattern. And here's a really useful tip when it comes to deciding how you're going to count a difficult section. When in doubt, count in the smallest note value that appears in the passage. So far, everything we've looked at divides the beat into equal parts. But music doesn't always behave so neatly, and that's where dotted rhythms come in. Dotted rhythms are everywhere in music, from classical pieces to pop songs. So understanding how they work is essential. First, let's clarify what a dot actually does. When you see a dot after a note, it makes it longer by half. So a dotted minim equals the combined length of a minim and a crotchet. 2 beats plus 1 beat equals 3 beats. A dotted crotchet equals the combined length of a crotchet and a quaver. 1 beat plus half a beat equals 1.5 beats. The tricky thing about dotted rhythms is that they create an uneven subdivision of the beat. Let me show you the 2 most common dotted rhythm patterns you'll encounter. The first is a dotted crotchet followed by a quaver. This is probably the most common dotted rhythm. In 4/4 time, for example, a dotted crotchet takes up 1.5 beats, followed by a quaver, which completes the remaining half of the beat. You can think of it like the first half of beat 2 has effectively been tied to beat 1. Take a look at this example. The key here is to count in quavers. The dotted crotchet holds for 3 of those subdivisions, 1 and 2, and the quaver comes in on the remaining and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Here's another example in 3/4. You can see the dotted crotchet begins on beat 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Here's where students often go wrong. They make the dotted note too short, or the short note too long, or both, and mistakenly turn the pattern into 2 equal sounding notes. Of course, this is not what we should be hearing. Essentially, the patterning sounds long short. So as you're playing, listen carefully and make sure the first note of the pair clearly sounds longer than the second. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and long, short, long, short. Now, what happens if the shorter note in the pairing comes before the longer one? For example, if a quaver precedes a dotted crotchet. Well, don't panic. Just work it out exactly the same way. Count in quavers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can hear the pairing of a quaver and a dotted crotchet sounds as short long. Let's move on to the pairing of a dotted quaver followed by a semiquaver. This is a faster version of the same concept. For this rhythmic pattern, the best approach is to subdivide the crotchet beat into 4 semiquavers. The dotted quaver occupies 3 semiquavers, and the final semiquaver completes the beat. So proportionately, the dotted quaver is 3/4 of the beat, and the last semiquaver is 1/4. Let's take a look at an example. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And just like we examined earlier, this can be reversed. Follow exactly the same principle and break it down into semiquavers. Now we have the 1/4 of a beat coming first, followed by the 3/4, creating that short long sound. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Let's now check out some ways to master dotted rhythms in practice. First, write in your counting with all the subdivisions. Play on one note or tap the rhythm very slowly, counting out loud with those subdivisions. Don't skip any of the E's or the A's in your 1E and a phrase. Make sure you say them all, even when you're not playing a note on them. This helps you feel and quantify a note's full duration. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Once you've got the rhythm secure at a slow tempo, gradually speed it up. Eventually, you won't need to count all the subdivisions out loud. You'll feel them internally, and you'll be able to add the actual notes back into the mix far more easily. Here's the tune again. This time, I'm going to add the notes back in, count in crotchet beats, and play it a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, a dot after a note doesn't mean hold it for a bit longer, it means something very specific mathematically. Understanding that precision will make your dotted rhythms crisp and accurate every time. There's one more element that can completely derail good counting if you ignore it, and that's rests. Rests are just as important as notes. They're not empty space to be glossed over. Each rest has a specific rhythmic value that must be counted with the same precision as the notes around it. A common mistake students make is rushing through the rests or cutting them short, perhaps unconsciously feeling that silence isn't as important as sound. But when you don't give rests their full value, you throw out the rhythmic continuity and disrupt the beat. The music loses its structure and timing. So when you're practicing, count through every rest. Say the numbers or subdivisions out loud, just as you would if you were playing notes. This ensures the rest occupies exactly the right amount of time and keeps your pulse rock solid throughout the piece. So let's recap what we've covered. Successful counting requires two things: understanding the mathematical relationships between note values and being able to play rhythmic patterns within a steady pulse. Your secret weapon is subdividing. When you're completely bamboozled by a rhythm, break it down and count it in smaller rhythmic units like quavers or semiquavers. To this very day, I still use this technique. If I come across a difficult passage, I actively work out the rhythm and write it in if I need to. Rhythm is not an approximation. It has to be precise. Every accomplished musician has had to learn to count accurately and efficiently. You're not alone in your endeavours. So, while counting might be challenging at first, perseverance, coupled with a systematic approach, will set you well on the path to becoming a fluent and confident rhythmic reader. Thanks for watching, and happy practicing.